Hello, and welcome to a tutorial on how to install Tigase server on a Linux server using the web installer system. For this tutorial, we'll be using Ubuntu version 14. However, any Linux operating system with a GUI should operate in the same fashion. First, let's go to the Tigase website to download our files. As you can see here, Tigase server is offered in a number of extensions: dist.max, tar.gz, and zip compressed formats, dist, tar.gz, and zip compressed formats, as well as an installer for Javadoc and an installer for the base server. In this case, we're just worried about using the distribution max tar.gz folder. And we'll save it to our default location. Now that we have it downloaded, let's go ahead and open up our downloads. In this case, we just open up the archive. Tigase servers will, by default, extract into folders that are named after the build number. This prevents Tigase from accidentally overwriting old installations. Since we have a new installation, and to keep things simple, we're going to extract this into the home directory and Tigase. Once the extraction is finished, we can then start a version of Tigase, albeit a stripped down version with just the HTTP server enabled. It comes pre-configured, so no other configuration is necessary at this time. Once that's finished, let's open up Tigase and go to the Tigase directory. There, we can start Tigase using the standard start command. However, we don't need to specify a configuration file. Tigase instead will load a default configuration file for us. Be sure to give Tigase a moment to run first. Now that Tigase is running, let's go ahead and open up the HTTP setup. To reach the setup server, point your browser to http://localhost port 8080/setup. Be sure to include the trailing /, otherwise you will receive an error 404 not found. You'll find that setup operates pretty much like any other setup program. The only difference being is that it's running in your browser. The second page is Advanced Clustering Strategy information. Here it's asking for a company name in case you happen to have any commercial licenses with Tigase software. The following page shows a current configuration setup for Tigase server. Here you can load another configuration from a previous installation from a separate file. Now we get into the meat of configuration, starting with the server settings, such as domain, server administrator, and password. Next, we can select what components we want enabled or disabled, if we want any cluster configuration set up, and what we want debugged. Here, we can select what plugins we want to use with Tigase server. Most of them are enabled by default, but unchecking them will disable them. Finally, we have a database configuration. In this case, it's for Derby. We just need a root password, and the users are set by default. Once that configuration is finished, the installer will then set up your database. Next, you'll see a review of your installation settings and init properties. Once that is saved, you will need to restart Tigase server, so the new settings will be applied. This can be done by using the same command for starting, but instead, just go to restart. Once Tigase has finished restarting, you are ready to use Tigase XMPP server.